this interview is for the upcoming edition of our monthly magazine called Media Talk Back, that is focused on the rise of the OTT platforms. So the
Right.
first question that I have for you is, sir, how has COVID impacted the OTT industry, and how do you see its growth?
So I'll probably take the question up from a little bit from a situation that what the journey we have been going through from our last 24, 36 months to our last 12 months or last 14 months.
Right.
If we look at overall situation of the Indian content industry journey, I think the content creation for the streaming platform or the growth of the streaming platform, we have been seeing substantial growth probably from last 36 months. Uh, Maybe the most of the at least the global platforms have started creating their footprint sometime around 2016, 2017. But definitely from 2018 onwards or 17, 18 onwards, we have seen that how the business has started growing. There are a couple of fundamentals which are unique to India, irrespective of the COVID situations or not. What are the two fundamentals very important? The couple of fundamentals which are important are number one, in India, I think post the launch of Jio, virtually the data cost is negligible. I mean, like a 10 cent, 8 cent per GB is like you will not get a similar level of data cost across the globe. So with the data cost virtually being or negligible, the consumption pattern of any digital content has grown. What was not happening earlier, that the focus of the content creator or the focus of the platform was primarily towards the linear TV or the general entertainment channels or the appointed TV, as we want to talk about that part. That took a shape and form from 2000 when we started seeing at least the global players like a Netflix or Amazon, they set up their shop, they started commissioning projects. And honestly, at least for Netflix, the Indian consumers who first started taking those subscriptions, they started building up the habit from looking at their global content. It was not necessarily that Indian contents were available there. It used to be much more expensive than a general entertainment channel subscription, but people used to spend that money to look at their global contents or Western content. This pattern, of course, between 2016, 17 to all the way up to 19, 20, this pattern, of course, every year was having its own growth. Two or three reasons. Like if you look at the three big players, while Netflix was known for their own content, Amazon was, of course, the large e-commerce platform, as well as so their consumers are coming, as well as Prime Video consumers are whether coming for a video or coming for the pattern. But ultimately they have been coming more like a marketing acquisition route. And lastly, from a Disney perspective, it was one of the largest sports content was available there, or a Hotstar. These all scenarios in the last 14 months, we saw a dramatic change or reason for, the impact of COVID on this particular industry. So people are all locked down at home. There is no possibility of any external, forget about the entertainment, but external any kind of event for people's movement. At the same point of time, a significant opportunity of consuming or sampling content across the globe or across Indian content. All these three reasons put together has almost in the year probably 2021, the year which has gone by, at least even up to December 20, or kind of we have seen the BCG reports and etc. The growth pattern was almost like a 50% upside. Fortunately for the content creators, this was at least one medium where the stories were going, right? Because theaters were closed, everything was shut down. So even for the filmmakers or even for the other mediums, everything was quite, because what was happening for even broadcasters, that with the economy completely in the tailspin, there was a significant drop in the advertisement revenue. And if there was a significant drop in advertisement revenue, of course, the budget got shrunk for even the GC platform. But OTT is one place where we have seen significantly, not only in India, but globally, 2021, all the large players, they have increased their spends with a significant number. When I mean large players, whether the global players or even in Indian players, to look at players like an MX player, players like Z5. So today in the country there are close to some 40 odd channels, but 40 odd platforms. So even if you look the top three, which is the in terms of the size and scale, which is Netflix, Amazon, and Disney Plus, in terms of their investment. But after that, also if you look at all the other GC led platforms in channels who have their own own OTT play, like a Sony Live or a Z5 and etc. All of them have been doing extraordinarily well. So yes, so last 12 months, 14 months, if you ask me, the start, what happened between 17-18 or 16-17 or 17-18, it literally leapfrogged in last 12-14 months. The growth was almost like a 50% odd growth in 1 year. The only segment which has been growing in the media and entertainment sector, I think, other than games. Gaming was also the same story. People have been consuming content at their play. And it helped the overall industry, overall content part of the industry, that at least the contents are created, it was seen on the platform, there was a cash flow which got protected. So that's a good part. I mean, that's a good part of the otherwise a very dreary situation of the last 12 months, 14 months scenario in the sector.
So definitely. And sir, what about Reliance Entertainment? How has COVID impacted Reliance?
So if you, I mean, just to give you a little background that what does Reliance, I mean, if you want to understand this question, probably you need to understand that what does Reliance Entertainment stand for, what we do.
Right.
So our main or our business element, somewhere if somebody asks us to explain, we basically say that we are a content creator company agnostic to the platform. Okay, when I mean agnostic to the platform, we make content from a 70 screen to a mobile screen. So our large part of the business was basically film. We created more than 400, 450 odd films over a period of last 13, 14 years. Then of course we make content for streaming platform. Then we make content for general entertainment channels or daily soaps or non-fiction soaps, non-fiction series. Then we have large animation studios. We make a lot of animation content for the channels and OTT platforms. And last but not the least, we also have a mobile gaming studio where we make content for the mobile game. Now, if I look at this piece of bracket, 2 or 3 things happened. The business which got really hard, the part of the business was basically film, because the theater, all the exhibition sector was completely shut down. I mean, even now also largely after the second wave again, the cinemas have got shut down. So people have, means from a company like us, we have been sitting with things like Suryavanshi, 83, and also many other 3 or 4 Tamil films as of March 20, right? We managed to release some of the films direct to digital in Netflix or so. And we are still holding the big one, which is Suryavanshi 83 for a theatrical release. At the same point of time, while this was the situation on the theatrical business, there is a substantial content we have been able to create for the streaming platform. So even during the peak COVID situation, which was affecting, so one part was an exhibition, the other part of the impact was how do you shoot? Because shooting was a large part of the last year as well as in the current year. Whenever there is a lockdown, there was a stoppage in the shooting. But even in that situation, we navigated with all of the protocols and all of the systems and etc. We started shooting last year, I think August, September, we started shooting. We did a show with Z5, which was basically an adaptation of Black Widow. Subsequently, we did a second show, which Vikas Bahel did, called Sunflower, which just launched a couple of weeks back and did great numbers. Currently, if I look at it, we have at least 2 shows in development with Netflix. There are 2 shows in development with Amazon. There are 1 show in development with Hotstar. So all the large players, I mean, all the at least from the, when I mean that all the meaningful players who have been doing content for all of them in the streaming place. The team is engaged in the shooting and production in that space. So the businesses which remain unaffected. So if I look at it, the film part of the business got quite affected. The streaming part of the businesses, we managed to work with a start-stop situation. Same situation for television daily. But the business which was completely unaffected and we did quite well is our animation and the gaming business. Because what happened, the animation we have probably close to 1,500 odd headcount directly or indirectly, and in the gaming probably we have some 100 odd headcount. Now this entire setup, this entire team, when the last year lockdown happened, we planned in advance and we ensured that they are all at their home. They have their hardwares at the home. We ensured the software, hardware, bandwidth, network, everything we organized. And by means of which happened is that they were able to create even from a work from home structure also, we are able to create content, and we kept our content throughput or supplies to all the, like we have 3 shows. We did a show with Discovery Kids called Little Singham. We do a show for Nickelodeon, Golmaal Junior, and then we have a Cartoon Network, Smashing Simba, etc. So all the shows we kept running in the entire last year, and the platforms are happy because they have got content completely uninterrupted. So to break it into pieces, the live action part were definitely affected. The film was mainly affected. The streaming content and the television content we still managed and navigated and organized some supplies and some content. But the non-live action part, the animation and the gaming part, that continued without much hassle.
I get that, sir. All right, sir. So the next question would be, what are your thoughts about the future of the OTT industry?
So definitely the industry is going to grow further. As much the data we are looking at, the people are predicting that probably by between 2020 to 2023, we are looking at this, the overall industry is going almost like a 25 to 30% CAGR year on year. There are reasons, there are 2 or 3 fold reasons. If you look at what is happening in this space, a country of 1.3 billion population, a young population, virtually negligible data cost, more than 650 million smartphones. So you have all the elements in place for the consumption pattern to increase. So there is no reason that why the consumption pattern will not increase. My belief is that the next level of growth, so there are two or three things which are happening in parallel. Number one, there is a next segment of global players who are planning to launch their platforms in India. So we already have the Disney Plus, Amazon, Netflix. Very soon we'll see Apple as well as HBO Max launching their India Play. So they're already looking at, they have already launched globally, but for Indian content and India Play, they will start looking at content and sourcing content from here. And then, of course, then there are players like Peacock on Hulu and etc. of the world. We have to see those players at what point of time they want to take a position here. The second level of growth. So when I'm meaning that is what is going to happen, that the spend of the global players for India market is going to increase, not only from the existing players, but also from the new entrants which are going to enter into the market. You also need to understand that why does it happen for the global players to look at an India market? See, if you look at the North America or the main market in terms of the Europe or North America, that portion of the situation, the North America is already quite crowded. It is already saturated because the television industry as well as the streaming platform is much mature than the Indian market of the situation, and already there are 20-30 players who have been jostling for the same level of consumption pattern of the consumer. So definitely for the next subscriber base or for their next level of growth, they have to look at the outside North America or the global play. Now, if they look at a global play, Europe is small because while Europe is an interesting market and where the consumers are paying, but the market overall size of the market is small. And China, they cannot enter. The Chinese government is not allowing any foreign players to open up their setup. So they have no other option but look at the next big geography or the next lucrative geography, which is India, for the consumer subscription. So that is point number one. Point number two, also what is happening is that the Indian storyteller stories are now going global. So it is not only they are coming to India for the Indian consumers, but Indian storyteller stories are not now restricted to only Indian audiences. I mean, to give an example, when we did Sacred Games a few years back, the trend, what we understood, that almost 2/3 of the consumers came from outside India, and they are not necessarily NRIs and OCIs of the world. It came from the mainstream audiences. So language is not a barrier. The same thing is happening. The next level of growth, what we'll see in India, will be basically from the regional markets. Today, we have making contents in almost like 20, 25 odd languages. While in the Hindi segment, we'll find that with the growth of new players or the advent of the new players, there will be a certain level of growth. But the next significant level of value growth or the percentage growth we'll expect from the regional market. Because if a content, whether it is made in Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Bengali, in whichever odd languages, people have started agnostic or consuming content agnostic to the language, because we are all consuming content looking at a subtitle at the end of the day. When we see a content, whether a Narcos or Fauda or Money Heist, none of them are English content at the end of the day. But we are all consuming content because the storytelling is interesting. So India's next level of growth segment will have to be from the regional market, as what can be seen over and above the Hindi play. So yes, the market is going to, the segment is going to grow. It is expected to grow at least between 25 to 30% year on year. The overall pie of the digital and OTT will be larger than the film businesses, definitely. If not, if already they have crossed that size of the market. And yes, the regional growth will be sharper than the national growth and the Hindi language.
All right. So, sir, regulation of OTT content is making the headlines often. How do you see this as an evolving conversation?
So yes, so I think we always play into that situation, or we always have to debate into that situation, that what is the freedom of creators vis-a-vis what is the line where a responsible storytelling is not, or a responsible or not so responsible storytelling is affecting the freedom of another set of people, right? Now, there is no easy answer to it, but globally, the creators or the storyteller definitely want a democratic setup or democratic situation in terms of the storytelling. So that's what, as a producer, as a maker, as a creator, all what we always try to see, that the creators have their voice, and that voice is being told on the stories as clearly or as with as much freedom as possible. But in the same breath, one also needs to understand that while one creator needs a freedom or democracy in terms of his or her storytelling, where is that responsibility that storytelling is not affecting somebody else's freedom of living, or somebody else's freedom of thought processes, right? And that's where the whole concept starts coming, that what are the guidelines one should have, or then etc. etc. So there has been a lot of debate, no doubt on that. Over a period of last 18, 24 months, people have been debating. Somehow this guideline came, I think, a few months back. My thought process, while at the core, I always believe and I'll always strive for the for as much openness, transparency, freedom the ecosystem can provide for the creator to tell stories. At the same point of time, if there is a guideline which government has now came out with, we need to give a definite amount of time or testing that guideline, that how does it pan out, because while we tend to react to some of the things we need to change, some of the things needs to be tweaked, which is fine, because it's a new guideline. Always there will be a set of observation, always there will be some changes over a period of time. Probably I'll be in a position to see that yes, there is a guideline. Let's see next 12 months, next 18 months, next 24 months, how does this guideline is affecting the journey of the storyteller. So we need to give a certain amount of time to test it out, that whether it is affecting, or it is ultimately people are adapting, or is it going to impact the overall quality of the stories or not. So we need to give that time, or we need to give that effort to see that how does it pan out. And I'm sure that if people feel, or the creators or the makers feel that there are changes required, or there are suggestions which will come, I'm sure the authorities and the regulations of the bodies will again go through that motion of changes. I mean, laws are not made on one particular day. It takes its own time to test it out.
That's very true, sir. Very true.
Right.
So, sir, how are you ensuring content differentiation and what are the challenges in that?
I think that is the most important thing as a creator or a production company we always think through, right? Um, we don't deny out of the fact that the most important part of this whole industry is basically the storytelling. And how do you create that differentiation, and how do you create that you are unique in that situation? Um, you need to be very close to the consumer. The challenge is also in the streaming contents, or that's true even for films, is that ultimately what you are thinking today, from the time you conceive the idea, from the time you develop it, from the time you complete the writing, and then you execute it, it is 24 months to 36 months down the line. And who knows that at that point of time, your consumer or this story will be still relevant to your consumer or not. So the most important thing is, as creators or storytellers, is they need to remain as much close to consumer as possible. Uh, Sometimes even it is not necessarily required that you need to be different. If something is good, and if something is acceptable, if um, something is more sought after, and if there are some people who have done up before you, that's fine. I mean, not have to do every time turn the wheels at your end. Uh, but in whatever way you want to create or develop those stories, one needs to always have a question, and one needs to always have an ecosystem by which the stories and ideas and concepts are constantly getting tested to question that are they relevant, will it excite a consumer, will it excite the next generation or not. You need to map one need to map that what are the target target age you are looking at, what is the SSC you are looking at. Even between the platforms, there are stories which you may say that, okay, this is the story which is it can go to a platform which has a mass Hindi heartland base, with a story which is a very unique and niche content. Probably it will go more global. So one needs to do that homework. So interestingly, what happens is that while there are two phases of consumers we have to look at. One phase of consumer is like a B2B. When we are making creator, we make it stories for the platform, that which platform will pick it up. And the second level of situation is B2C. Now B2C is more important because ultimately, even if a platform picks it up, it has to be relevant or it has to be liked by the consumer at the end of it. So this is an ongoing exercise. This is not that one-off exercise one needs to do, but as a content creator, content creation companies which we are engaged in films or television or OTTs and etc. This is an ongoing exercise one needs to do. You need to dissect your consumer. You also need to dissect your platform who are also your consumer. And depending upon the requirement, depending upon the of the train, you need to churn out the stories which will excite people. And depending upon your research, most importantly. Also, the companies or creators or the ecosystem of the people who are storytellers, they also need to sample a lot of content, because you also learn from other people's content. And that sampling, the good part or the democratic part of this world is that sampling not only happens for your own country's content, but today the whole world is open. You can see a Korean content, you can see a Taiwanese content, a Chinese content, and see how does it pan out in this situation. So yes, so there is no one easy answer for the question what you are asking, but it is almost something ingrained within the organization ecosystem through the set of creative people whom you work with. That what is that somebody will like 2 years down the line, which I can think now, right? Because at the end of the day, whatever you are thinking now will see the light of the day 2 years, 3 years, at whatever point of down the line, earliest. Because whatever you think now, even to create, conceive, make 8-part episode stories, it is a 1.5 year time, and then somebody one platform has to get into life, and then you execute. So it has its own journey. But yes, I think this cannot happen as a one strategy. It has to be part of the organization culture. So that's the way one organization, I'm sure that most of the creative companies and most of the production companies build themselves up in that background.
So it's a time-consuming process, sir. I do
Yes.
believe that. Yes.
Yes.
So, sir, what plans do you have for 2022?
2022.
Yes.
So I think so. Let me take each of the segment at a time. I think from a film point of view, we have a significant level of large number of films which we have greenlit and which we'll see probably at some point of time. The films which are completely ready, waiting for release, as I told you, that Suryavamshi and 83 are waiting for a release, maybe whenever the cinemas will open up. Uh, then last October, November, we started a lot of films when the lockdown opened up. We started a film which Rohit Shetty was directing with Ranveer Singh called Circus. That the shooting was ready. We started a film called Operation Majnu, which is basically a remake of a Malayalam film which Nilesh Pandey was producing. That film, the shooting was also ready. I mean, shooting, when I mean ready means the shooting was over basically. Then Imtiaz started producing a film called it's with Gajraj Rao and a combination of actors. That is in the mid shoot. We have to stop the shoot for the second wave and we'll again restart the shoot. Vibhu Dasgupta completed the shooting. He was just back a couple of weeks back. He was doing an action thriller with Pariniti and Hardy and a lot of other ensemble cast. That shooting got completed in Turkey. Fortunately, Turkey was allowing the shooting to happen. Then there is another host of films will get into store at some stage. Vikram Vedha will get a remake of adaptation of Vikram Vedha will get into the store with two lead cast. Then there are films called Chanakya. There are a couple of films with Ajay Devgn, Chanakya and Kai. So there is a whole lot of films which are in the pipeline. Some of the films are complete. Some of the films are partly complete. Some a couple of films with Vidyut Jammwal. So all these films are in a different stages. But as where I started, that it is quite unpredictable time. So even when your packaging or artist talent, everything is ready, you need to wait because everybody's dates got lost, right? So if you suppose if there was a film which was supposed to start this July, but suddenly the actor has lost last 6 months, you have no other option but to you shift in the queue because he has to complete his old film first before taking forward. So I feel in 2022, definitely from I'm hoping that in the next 9 to 12 months time, hopefully the world of exhibition sector and the life will come back to normalcy and the people will come back to the cinemas again. There is a host of from a large tentpole to high content films. We have a slate of films which will expect to get in the floor and complete by that time. In terms of the shows, there are a lot of work also similarly happening. We are probably around September, October, we are supposed to start almost three to four shows. We are supposed to start one show with Milan Lucia, which is supposed to come in Hotstar, Disney Plus. Then we are supposed to do one show with Mrig and Guru, the same team of basically Mirzapur team, and that will probably called Pan Parda Dada, that will start in that's the show for Netflix that will start probably at the same point of time. Then there is a show which Amar Kaushik has been curating and he's planning to direct that. That's also even the discussion stage. There is a subject which Rohit Shetty was planning to direct. It will get into the floor at the same point of time. And he will either showrun or direct, and that's with Amazon. So then there is a Vikram Motwani show which started last April 2020, got stuck. It again started April 2021, again got stuck. It is restarting now. Restarted today actually. Called Starter. That is also quite a large format, large budget show. That is also with Amazon. So then there are one or two in development with Disney Plus. There is one couple of discussions are going on in parallel with MX Player, with Z5, Lionsgate, another company. So yes, 2022, I foresee that at least anything between 4 to 6 big different size and structure of shows are expected to get released or at least start production and finished by that period of time. But finger crossed, this is all hoping that the life will be much more normal in the going forward in the future days. In television, as I told you, that we work with multiple regional channels with Zee Punjabi, Starma, a lot of channels we work with in parallel, as well as in Hindi. In Malayalam, we are working with one channel for a non-fiction. So television is something, there is a television unit which works on their daily soaps and non-fiction shows. In animation, there are, of course, what the way we do animation is that we don't do outsourced work, we only create our own IPs. And basically, we take IPs from our films and television space and create shows around that. And we only license right. We don't assign the right. So of late there are three strong or four strong shows which are likely to continue and start. So as I mentioned you that Little Singham is already in the third season, probably the fourth season will start. Golmaal will get into the second season. Smashing Simba will get into the second season. Then at some stage, once Suryavanshi is released, Suryavanshi show is already locked with the platform, and that will get announced, and that will go into the first season. So definitely the animation team of close to 1,500 odd headcount, they will get engaged with making these shows for the different television channels. And mobile game, as I told you, that mobile game we always work with. Again, similarly, we take IPs mainly from the Hollywood space. So our last game, like WWE, was a big game. Then we did a lot of business with Real Steel. So we take Hollywood IPs, create games around that, and then launch. So they also have their calendar. So yeah, it's a busy year. I think we are only hoping for life to come back to some life of motion, and then we churn out content for the consumer.
Yes, life will take a little bit of time, I think, to get back to normal. But yes, this thing will never stop. I think OTT will keep on growing because of the speed and the pace that it has picked up now, especially because of the COVID. I think it acted as a catalyst to OTTs. And about, yes, sir, sorry, you were saying.
No, no, no.
So, sir, about animation and gaming, as you mentioned, that there were still so many projects that were going on. So, do you think that it is one of the major industries in media and entertainment where people can get job opportunities?
Game is going to be the next big thing for media and entertainment. India is already a big thing. Probably not. We have not as an industry, we have not spent so much of a time. So I'll give you a background because as a company, we have spent a lot of time on the gaming. We used to run one of the world's most successful console gaming company. It used to be studio. It used to be out of the UK. From 2010 to 2019, I used to run that operation with my local team called Codemaster. We used to make the racing genre, car racing genre game. So all the Formula One licenses, Dirt, Grid, etc. We used to do there. We exited that business in 2009 as a group, but it was one of the most successful company. We have a long history of running mobile games and online games. But in India, gaming was always used to be a small sector in the overall space. If you look at globally, gaming industry is larger than the media and entertainment industry. The overall gaming industry is larger than media and entertainment industry, right? So from that point of view, in India, what is happening, especially in the last 18 months when people are under lockdown and etc., there has been substantial sampling of gaming which has happened. Before that, not only a lockdown as a catalyst, but before that also we have seen that movement, especially the 2 or 3 sector within the gaming, the real money games, like all your card games or Ludo games or Thinkpastis and etc. of the world. That has definitely it's the most fastest running segment within the gaming space, as well as the fantasy games, like all your Dream 11, the companies like Dream 11 and etc. So gaming sector, plus the traditional mobile games, where basically we're creating content. I mean, we are basically creating mobile games and which are premium games, and your monetization is through in-app purchases. Like companies like Nazara, which got listed sometime back, they have been one of the long player in the mobile game space. So gaming as a sector is going to be the next big thing in the Indian media entertainment. That's what even the industry is predicting, and their growth pattern will be probably as fast as OTT or probably faster, because same KPIs, like it's a young population, access of the smartphone, the cost of data is virtually negligible. So all these elements will boil down to a situation of an entertainment consumption, which will be the gaming. So that's number one. For animation point of view, for a longest period of time, this country used to be known as opportunity for outsourcing. But we have changed that pattern. I mean, as an organization, we have taken a lot of effort and saying that, okay, we can also create our own content, own IPs, and those IPs are also now becoming bigger. Now, today, if a Little Singham or Chhota Bheem is becoming a popular on Netflix, that is becoming popular across the globe. So I find that in the animation, the next growth opportunity is basically creating our own IPs and taking that opportunity to the global consumer. So definitely these two segments, even if you look at the last weekly report or their annual entertainment report and etc., these two segments are definitely growing quite fast.
All right, sir. So as a company grows, even if it's in a creative business, the component of routine work, what someone can call fetch work as opposed to the stretch work increases. So how can one manage that?
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
I'll repeat, sir. So as a company is growing, even if the company is doing some creative business, the component of routine work, what some can call like fetch work, can increase. So how can one manage that?
See, the only way, see, that happens. I mean, and that's going to happen for every other organization which is in a constantly growth phase. Now, the only way you can manage growth is how do you create clones of yourself? Like if there is a successful, you have a small unit, and if the successful unit has been giving an output of 100, and tomorrow that output is required as 500, as much as you can stretch, whether from a creative point of view or as well as from a routine point of view, there will be an amount of saturation and there will be amount of limitation, right? So the only way one can grow and one can successfully supply to that growth requirement is how you clone yourself and how you can create more and more opportunities. So organization like us, we believe in a very democratic setup. So in our own growth pattern between 2015 to 2020, if I look at it, uh, we no longer talk ourselves as a studio. Instead of being a studio or a corporate studio, what we have turned ourselves into production partners of multiple joint ventures. So our growth has mainly came through joint ventures, and we have created a host of joint ventures with the most creative makers in the country. So lot of successful film directors like Imtiaz Ali, Rohit Shetty, Neeraj Pandey, and Raghu Dasgupta, Shashi from South. They're all our joint venture partners. And what happens in this joint venture relationship is not like a joint venture for a project, but we created a joint venture relationship at an entity level. So what happens is that whatever a creator today, if Imtiaz wants to create a set of stories, whether there's a film, whether there's an OTT, whether there is a show or anything from that point of view, that set of opportunities, from a Reliance's point of view, we just create an ecosystem in terms of giving a support to the marketing, funding, business management, and administrative skill, and working with their creative and development team, where they take the lead and taking those output to the consumer. So, if we would have tried to create one Reliance Entertainment and you tried to grow it over a period of time, it used to be much challenging. But what we have managed to do is that we have created multiple partnerships. So, our growth, I mean, we clearly focus that, and we believe that in the creative world, you can only grow through creative collaboration, creative partnership in whatever form and structure you want to do. So largely, I think that's what allows us that even there are even if your routine work increases, or even if that becomes challenging, you actually divide into many of the buckets, and you don't want to get limited or restricted by trying to grow vertically. So you need to grow vertically as well as horizontally from that point of view.
That's a very good idea, sir. I think I will be telling my team about it.
I mean, there is nothing set form of success. We tried something for last 5 years and it is working. I'm
Right.
sure that this stage also will get challenged at some point of time and something better will
Right.
come. So always look for situations what can create better things.
True. So, sir, my last question for you would be any tips or any tricks that you would like to share with digital entrepreneurs who are planning to, launch an OTT business or maybe something in digital entertainment?
Right. So I think a couple of things. One is that I think digital is a medium. Okay. Now, whenever somebody is looking for opening up something on this medium, one has to first identify that what is the requirement, what is the customer requirement. Otherwise, if you look at many times many of us make a mistake, is that we mistake the medium as a requirement. The medium is not the requirement, because in the medium there are hundreds and thousands and lakhs of people or lakhs of organizations are trying to do the same thing every time and again. But if someone can identify a requirement of a consumer or a requirement of a customer, and there is a very clear thought process that this requirement can be, if it can be fulfilled, then definitely there is a large consumer pool on that. Use digital as a medium. Then you have to think whether it fits into the digital or not. It may be a requirement which is not necessarily a digital requirement, maybe a something else requirement. So I think the first and foremost thing is that people need to identify that what is the requirement of the consumer. Like say last few years or last over decade or whatever, like this kind of organizations which has popped up, like say Airbnb, right? We have seen travel industry or hotel industry for probably 100 years. But if somebody has thought that there can be a requirement of consumer who needs to have a flexibility than taking a particular hotel and etc. But you create a requirement, you create a platform and create that opportunity at one place. People have identified that and that becomes a story, right? So similarly, one needs to first identify that what is the requirement. Don't necessarily, people should not get bogged down that because of digital, I need to identify a requirement. If the requirement is fulfilled and if digital can play that part, then that's one should look at. Second thing is that many times we tend to do a mistake. We look at some success stories and try to do that again and again. We also need to feel that if something has already happened and it has reached a market saturation, there is no point being the 6th player, 7th player, 8th player of an industry. Either if you are in the top so many numbers, which is reasonable. Of course, every industry that benchmark is not same. In some cases, probably people will try to be in the top 3. Some cases, people will try to be in the top 10. And in some cases, people maybe try to be in the top 20. And so those benchmarks are different. And I'm not making a sweeping statement. But one needs to think that is the market already getting saturated? Am I be the last guy and trying to break into something because it has already got created? Those make the differences between entrepreneurs and innovators, right? An innovator will always find a new space and try to jump into the situation. But one need not have to be a follower at all the point of time. It may be that demand is already gone. Maybe there is enough opportunity for the consumer on the existing play, and one need not needs a new player in that space. Probably these are not necessarily only for a digital entrepreneur or digital opportunity. These are true for any segment of startup or any segment of new business one look at it. Third, always challenge your philosophy where you started from. You may start with one philosophy and you want to probably give it time and work on it, but don't remain stagnant and static that this will work. It may not work. Maybe the world has changed. Maybe your theory has something wrong. So you should always have the courage to challenge the basic philosophy based on which you have started something. And if it is not working out, one need to have the courage to pivot and do something else. There is no embarrassment of failure if that failure boils down to something more successful than trying to hold on to something that we have started so that we need to go ahead with the same path. One needs to have a courage to ask and question oneself, right? So I'm not trying to say that these are the something which needs to be true only from a digital point of view, but I'm saying these are the truth we learn day to day in our own life, in our own things, whatever we do in every sphere of thing.
Very, very nice tip, sir. I'm sure that this will do a lot of good to other people who will listen to this interview. I'm sure of that.
I mean, thanks for giving me an opportunity. I love to speak, so I don't know how much relevant it was, but
very relevant.
But yeah, I always try to share whatever is my own understanding of this thing.
No, sir. Thank you so much for coming to this platform and enlightening us with your views and insights. They are very valuable to us.
Thank you. Thank you for calling.
Thank you, sir.